Welcome to my short 5 minutes or less review of Resident Evil or Resident Evil Remake to differ this title from the original Resident Evil release for the PS1 in 1996. Resident Evil is a third-person survival horror video game developed by Capcom Production Studio 4. Right off the bat, it's worth mentioning that the quantum leap from the PlayStation 1 era of low resolutions, lack of bump mapping, lack of fidelity is all a thing of the past when it comes to this blood-soaked universe. Is drenched in a massive stylistic choice of macabre atmosphere, and the new textures that creep its way down to the screen is just great. This update is for the modern masses, and it packs a visceral force to be reckoned with. First, let's speak about the gameplay. Now, I'll quickly mention that the Resident Evil series in general has progressed down a path that shied away from its traditional old school roots. This game is prevalent to a lot of archaic choices reimagined that might leave the average third-person enthusiast scratching their head as to why they are playing a tank-controlled remake, especially for the first time in this age. Make no mistake, that's not a bad thing. Old school Resident Evil still has an appeal, and the classic style has a grandeur, a mastery that is well deserving of some respect. The gameplay for the most part serves its purpose as a clear line between life or death. This is front row center even for the first enemy. If you decide to blast him at close proximity, you'll manage a variety of items, weapons, puzzle solving, and your avatar's life as you navigate the mansion grounds to assure your survival. Considering this is a survival horror game, resources are extremely short, so as much as you would love to get a constant critical headshot on the next zombie, it wastes time and it wastes ammunition, and it leaves you some room for thought when it comes to the overall design. It leaves some room to think, which is important to the longevity of the game itself. New mechanics from later Resident Evils down the line were implemented, such as the 180 turn and more of a chance to defend your player character in the form of defense items. This really helps out in this version of the remake, and it really helps you cite the game as the definitive version of RE1 with these proven refinements. The controls for this game can be somewhat managed, yet I'll go on record and state they are far from perfect while rating them now. There are some brownie points to give Capcom for trying new methods such as newer analog control schemes, but there will be this compromising notion always there where friction develops in this married relationship of tank controls and fixed camera angles. You might feel that this couple needs a divorce ASAP, as there will be times where you're getting hit off screen or you're running into the wrong direction while being stuck on pieces of pre-rendered geometry. This may screw you out of a perfect evasion. It's a scheme that's hit or miss, but this scheme requires certain patience and a pain tolerance to overcome. The story is just your average B-grade run-of-the-mill whodidit affair. I did like the fact that they spliced in a lot of things from the originals that really added a lot of depth to the story. You get some hints to Alexia Ashford, you get some hints to Lisa Trevor, who never really appeared because she was opted out of the original Resident Evil, so that is a nice touch that they brought her back, along with several other additions that made the storyline crisp and compelling throughout. You really get a depth of the story in the notes, and you really get a depth of the characterization. You will always remember these characters, and I think that Capcom does a great job at creating characterization so far. I really liked it in Resident Evil. I enjoyed it. I really got behind some of the stuff that was going on. The only nitpick that I have is some of the voice acting felt a little flat for this remake. I think if they would have conveyed a little bit more emotion, then it would have been perfect, but unfortunately it just fails to meet that mark. The music is very akin to the classic soundtrack of the original non-DualShock version of Resident Evil, just remade and updated. Most of the tracks remade are just brilliantly handled. It's a bit hard to state if any of the majority of the tracks that I heard were off note or, for lack of a better word, butchered. The sound design is no slouch either. When heads come off, when bullets fire, when magazines are loaded into each new weapon, it all feels clearly authentic. It's almost a thing of legend to behold. When it comes to the graphical centerpiece of how this giant mansion is beautifully rendered, the game's visual prowess immediately drags you into the dark, dilapidated feel, which accommodates the new HD graphics. Capcom really took some time and dedication when it came to the task of already making a visually stunning game look even better in full widescreen and detail. While I'm not the biggest fan of the pan and scan technique, it certainly didn't ruin my overall experience of revisiting this remake or its present eye candy. While there might be a demographic that will feel that the Resident Evil remake is severely outdated, there is a lot to love here. The replay value is huge with a serviceable challenge for the Platinum Trophy roadmap. There are 2 main characters with additional endings, and there is a lot of in-game unlocks. I highly recommend Resident Evil Remake as a pickup for the most diehard survival horror fan. I give Resident Evil Remake a B+.